I'm Sean Lee from OpenDrives, and we've got Noah from CMSI and Remote Picture Labs here joining us today. And we just finished an amazing talk here at NAB 2024. And if people, Noah, thanks for joining us. If people want to know more about CMSI and Remote Picture Labs, how can they find you?
They can find us at cmsi.tv and remotepicturelabs.com. We love to talk workflow. Hit us up.
What we're talking about here today is we're talking about remote workflows. And remote workflows has really become a more and more of a thing since we are in a post-COVID landscape, and we were all forced to use remote workflows during COVID to really develop that technology to get work done. So I'm going to let Noah introduce himself. We're going to go through for about half an hour, 45 minutes here, and then we'll have Q&A at the end. So make sure you're taking notes. There'll be a test at the end.
Yeah, right.
Perfect. And don't worry, the test is only 100 questions. Hi, everybody. I'm Noah from both Creative Mobile Solutions and Remote Picture Labs, as our lovely slide here with the logo says. The quick version of, who are we, what do we do, why are we sitting in the OpenDrives booth talking to you guys? We started Creative Mobile Solutions in 2008, and the idea was to take post-production where post-production usually doesn't go. That was onto broadcast trucks at live events and used for contribution into near live stuff that people did not trust edit systems anywhere near. But we got pretty good at building them and made them stable, and it's worked out. We made a name for that. And then the pandemic comes along. You guys may remember that happened a couple of years ago. And we joined forces with some friends of ours that are pretty busy in the Hollywood world over at JCam Digital, and we formed a brand called Remote Picture Labs. And what we focus on there is really entirely remote workflow. It is work from home, Avids, Premieres, Resolve, whatever tools you use in your offline editorial world. And we built a virtualization cluster, GPU powered. It's our own private cloud, and we built that so that all of our Avid Editor and Premiere Editor clients could work on their scripted projects from home. That is a really quick version of who we are and what we do. And Sean, where should we go from there?
Awesome. Thanks for that introduction. So today we're talking about remote production. Mm-hmm. What would you say is some of the biggest challenges you see, or things that people really need to think about, as some of the audience here might have on-premise workflows that they're thinking about how to do it remote? What are some of the things that they should be thinking about as they approach that, some of the learnings that you guys have had in doing this?
Sure. So the planning conversation for us is the most important conversation. And educating our clients in what is actually possible, I think, is the most important part of any project that we're involved in. What we're finding is a lot of our clients are very smart in workflow, but only in the way that they have done it or have seen it in the past. So our goal is to really find out what are the goals that a client has in their production and what do they want to achieve, and not necessarily what tools they want to use. And then we'll make a lot of suggestions to them about ways to accomplish that. We often take a step back with a client that comes into us, and they'll come in going, oh, I want to use product X, Y, and Z, and that's how I want to do it. And we go, well, hold on a second. What are we actually trying to accomplish here? Have you considered, product A, B, and C augmenting X, Y, and Z? And education has really been our primary focus, is letting our clients know what the new tools that are available, because everybody has their own definition of remote too. So we need to define what is remote to the particular client, because remote pre-pandemic was, I'm going on location, it's a remote project. Then it turned into remote during the pandemic is, I'm definitely not in the same building with all of my coworkers. And now we have hybrid, which some folks still call remote. And hybrid is really, I want to work where I want to work, whether it's office, home, the beach, wherever. And there's ways to accomplish all of it. There's 100 ways or more to accomplish all of it, and it's finding the right solution for each client. So it's that dialogue and that education at the beginning of the project is what we key in on to make sure that we're giving our clients the right advice.
Yeah, I love what you said in that that consultative approach, like really understanding what your customers are trying to achieve. We take a very similar approach in understanding what problems that they're trying to solve for, so that we can make the right recommendations there. Everybody is unique, right?
Totally.
In their workflows, and I want to key on one other thing, which is the language, right? Remote means different things to different people. Hybrid means different things to different people. Could you cite like an example of maybe a customer it is that you have, or a use case where you like went through this journey, a story to tell about a practical implementation?
Sure. Let's see, what's a good one to talk about? So, yeah, I think a good one would be, we can discuss the NBA playoffs and the NBA finals. That is really truly a hybrid approach, because we have multiple locations. We know it's going to air on ESPN, but what does ESPN mean? Well, that means they have Bristol, Connecticut. Everybody knows the mothership. But they do production from there. They do production at a satellite site that they have in Charlotte. They have producers from home, editors from home, and then they have obviously the production crew at the arena. They've got the cameras and they're doing the replays and all of that. And all of these sites are connected to each other and augmenting. There's a lot of unique challenges there, because in a playoff scenario, you have two different cities that you're A-Bing back and forth between. We call them City 1 and City 2 because we're not very creative, and those are the easiest names to give them. But one of the challenges is you have a great game on, say, a Saturday night in City 1. Oftentimes, I mean, all of those clips are living on that broadcast truck because they're all made by the guys doing the replays, and they have to go somewhere so that when that arena turns the power off and everything turns off in City 1, all of that is accessible to the same crew that's now flying to City 2 to make the next game in the series. So the hybrid that we developed there was, we run our own private cloud, and as replays are happening, we're archiving everything immediately, putting it into a MAM system, and all of the producers, editors, anyone that needs access to the content has the ability to log into that system remotely, and they can make decisions. They can pull good clips. They can do a very simple string out. They can prep something for an editor. They can just add metadata, tag stuff, do whatever it is they need to do on the media. And it doesn't matter if the TV truck that's at that venue is powered on, powered off. And then they can also queue up clips that if they need to send it on to the next city, if that equipment isn't on yet, if the internet circuit isn't on yet, if whatever it is isn't ready, they can build a queue. And as soon as that comes up on site, then all of those clips transfer there, and the team that's on site, once they come into work, have all the media that's been pre-produced and ready for them. So it's a very unique, specific example, but that applies to all sorts of different productions, because electricity is always a challenge, connectivity is always a challenge. And that's one of the ways we've come up with a solution to those challenges.
Yeah, so as you describe, this type of a workflow, there are numerous moving parts as you like take that consultative approach, and there are infrastructure things that you need. There are applications. There's bandwidth. So, what are some of the things that you look for in tools and infrastructure that allows you to be able to solve these problems for your customers?
These questions aren't hard. That was an easy one. No, what we're looking for in tools is manufacturers that will work with other manufacturers. The years of choosing one product line and just staying vertically integrated and only buying products from that vendor to do your workflow, that's long gone. We're looking for stuff that is flexible, can be repurposed. We have a term called the "oh, by the way," that everyone's worked on a project where the client goes, "This is definitely how we're working. We're definitely going to do it this way." And then right as you're about to go to air, right as you're going to deliver, they go, "Oh, by the way, can we change that?" And what we're looking for is products that will interact with everybody else's products and be able to be adjusted on the fly with either zero downtime, minimal downtime. And along the same lines, we're looking for stuff that doesn't have to be 100% COTS hardware, but close enough to it with the performance that we need that clients expect us to be able to respond at the last minute to every request and have a solution at this point. We're not always able to source stuff the way we would like to, so we need any of the software or hardware solutions we're running to be able to run across a wide variety of manufacturers of hardware. So it's really the ability to interoperate and play nice in the sandbox with everybody else is paramount when we're looking for stuff.
Yeah, I love at the end right there you said interoperability, interconnectivity is really, really important to stay flexible and nimble. I don't know if you recall, you actually told me a story maybe a few weeks ago about and can we make this change at the 11th hour? Can you tell us that story?
Remind me which story we're talking about.
There was a change in like a deliverable or codec that was going to up like all the requirements.
Yeah, that story. Sorry, it's just my normal life now where we spec something and then it changes. But yeah, no, that story is a pretty wild story where we were working on an award show. We had built a system for this client that was going to take all of the cool interactions, all the interviews, everything that was happening on the red carpet for this award show. And the goal was create quality clips as fast as possible and publish them to all of their outlets. They had deliverables for Facebook, for YouTube, for their own website, for the broadcaster's website. There was a lot of different unique deliverables, but all originating from the same clipped content happening on the red carpet. We're doing this on location in a broadcast truck, using EVS servers to do the clipping, to get the clips at the highest quality, as fast as we could to storage. Happened to be OpenDrive storage because big and fast. We're sitting in the booth, so we'll name drop it. The challenge came up with, we've worked on this project for a number of years, and it's always 720p 5994, matches the broadcast standard. Occasionally it's been 1080i 5994, no big deal, same data rates. Night before production, they go, by the way, can we do 1080p 5994? And I see some people think that's really funny because that means, it's double the data rate of the other two resolutions I just mentioned. So everybody in the truck was stressing out. All the producers were stressing, the engineers were stressing. We took a look at the network that we had built, back to kind of off-the-shelf interoperability. We were using Arista switches. Our backbone to our storage system was 40 gig. We were linked to the EVSs individually at 10 gig. We did the math real quick on the back of a napkin and went, okay, yeah, we're fine. Everybody else in the production was losing their mind about, I don't have double the everything I need because the data rate of all the footage is doubling, and it was overbuilt and built with industry standard parts, and we were fine. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. So we talked a little bit about broadcast workflows, like live events, broadcast trucks. You want to talk a little bit about what Remote Picture Labs is doing and some of the innovative things there? Because I think that's also very interesting as we talk about remote meaning different things to different people. So remote broadcast truck is one thing. I believe that Remote Picture Labs is doing something a little bit different that's not broadcast truck.
Entirely different than broadcast trucks. With broadcast trucks, your post cycle is anywhere from 3 minutes to 3 hours, and you ingest, you put it together real quick, and you spit it right back out and you air it. With Remote Picture Labs, we're the exact opposite. We're traditional Hollywood scripted television and feature film workflows. So we can be in post on a given project anywhere from 10 weeks to 2 or 3 years, depending on what the project is. I know I said earlier, but I'll dive into it a little bit more. With Remote Picture Labs, pandemic hit, everybody in Hollywood needs to edit from home. There's a lot of ways to approach that. What a lot of the traditional post companies did, the quickest way to get online and keep their clients editing, is put a whole bunch of computers in the traditional edit bays now that nobody can come into work, and put some type of software on them and let everybody log into their bay and move forward. It works. we took a different approach because we always, whenever we're solving a problem, we look for longevity and we look for uptime. So we went ahead and in partnership with both Avid and Adobe, we built a huge virtualization cluster that is our cluster. We own it. It's in our co-location space. And we did this for a couple of reasons. We wanted to be able to control the costs and not be in a public cloud. And we needed to know what the fixed costs were, because the way that scripted television and scripted features budget their films is they need a fixed cost per week, per month, per quarter, and they can't go into a public cloud and go, well, it might be $37 an hour or $38 or $370, because calculating ingress and egress and storage and processing and all that is next to impossible for an editor, because you don't know if an editor is going to work 4 hours a day, 8 hours a day, 24 hours a day. It's whatever that editor needs to do to get the job done. And getting back to the booth we're sitting in real quick, at the core of that, we need a bucket of storage that's really big and really fast. So when we were choosing all this technology, we knew which servers we were going to purchase for the virtualization. You can choose any of the big server vendors that are out there. We knew which software we were going to run on it. Back to switching, we went with Arista because they were the right solution for what we were doing. And storage, we're running a combination of two buckets. We have Avid branded storage that is running our Avid editing systems. And then everything else is running on a pretty sizable OpenDrives, because we use that as the catch-all. Camera masters live on that. We can create dailies off of it. Transcodes run off of that. We have a large Signiant infrastructure that brings footage in and out of our world, and that all comes through there too. So back to interoperability, we have a bunch of products in there, but that's the hub of all of the transport and everything talking together.
Thanks for that. What are some of the things that you would share with our audience as like things that you've learned in the gotchas, like really pay attention to this or never do this, because you've learned through your experience of these things? I know that you have tons of stories, as we've known each other for a few years, of like challenges that you have faced. What things can you share with this audience about that?
Always have a backup. The biggest thing I've learned is always have a backup, because something will go wrong. But no, the most basic thing I think is the most important thing is, this is going to sound really stupid and boring, but it's read the documentation. Because just because a brochure says a product is going to do something doesn't mean it's going to do it. But if you dig in a little bit to a manufacturer's tech docs, you'll find out how you actually have to implement the products. And we've seen a number of our clients buy stuff that they thought would work together, and they didn't research far enough to find out if it worked exactly how they wanted it to work. And then that's an expensive problem to make. So we really like to, before we build anything and before we dive into anything, we like to dig really deep into it. Everyone on our team is a very visual person. So we do tons of drawings and vet that with any of the manufacturers that we partner with and go, hey, this is how we think we're going to do this. Does your part of this drawing actually work the way that we've depicted it? So I'm planning, and double check yourself. And then, yeah, definitely always have a backup, because stuff breaks. This is the media industry. Something's going to go wrong.
Yeah. So I feel like that's a little bit of a public service announcement, because as a manufacturer, we do have had experiences with customers that thought it could, like, our products could do something and maybe it couldn't, or they didn't have a good grasp or understanding of what they wanted to get done. So really, like, that planning, making sure that you're working with your technology providers, because it takes a lot of different technology providers to be able to ensure that that planning process has testing and validation and qualification, make sure that, hey, this all works before you go deploy it into production.
Yeah, actually, and that reminds me, one thing I want to add, you asked earlier about how we pick the technology vendors we work with and what are the key things we're looking for. One key thing I neglected to mention is we're looking for vendors that are interested in having a dialogue. Um, there is no perfect product out there, and everybody's use case is different, and we love working with companies that will be receptive to our feedback. We might not get all the features we want, programmed in 30 days and added to a shipping product, but we love having that dialogue of, hey, we're facing this challenge, it would be cool if your product adapted this way, and then we get a thoughtful response back about, well, you want to work that way, but have you considered this? Or, hey, that's a good idea in the next, 90 days, 180 days, next year, whatever it is, that can get integrated into a shipping product. And it's very cool how many companies are willing to have that dialogue now, as opposed to, I don't know, maybe 6, 8, 10 years ago when it was, here's what we shipped. It has 3 buttons, press one of the 3 buttons, and if it doesn't do it, good luck. So, yeah, having a dialogue with a manufacturer is huge.
Yeah, thank you for saying that because OpenDrives came from the media entertainment industry, and we bought storage and we use these tools that you use now, but we are no longer in that position of the end user, and you guys are, and your feedback to us on what you guys see in the field, informing us of what we could do differently or the challenges you face, help to make us better. I love what you talk about in the collaboration, the communication between you and the technology providers or people to people. Let's talk a little bit more about the people aspect of things, because we as OpenDrives find that to be really important. I overheard at an SVG event some people talk about the human factor values in remote. Can you talk a little bit about your experience and like how the technologies improve and affect the human factor on these productions?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll start off by saying we're really fortunate at both Creative Mobile and Remote Picture Labs to have an absolutely phenomenal team. The human factor is huge.
Yeah.
As a service provider and a vendor to our clients, it's what helps us separate ourselves from anyone else in the space that's providing a similar solution. We think that we have the smarter people, the cooler people to work with, the better people, the more innovative. And that's a big deal. But towards what you were asking, what we're seeing, people in remote and people in hybrid is really fascinating, where people are getting a better quality of life, we're noticing, in the scripted world for sure, because being the guys running the private cloud, we can see where folks are logging in from. That's been super fascinating on the person side of, everybody's not in LA or New York anymore editing Hollywood projects. So people can move closer to family, they can live where they want to, they can have a better quality of life. And then the folks that are staying in LA and New York aren't commuting anymore. So they're getting hours back in their day. And when we talk to them, everybody's a generalization. Most people seem a lot happier this way. And then we also had an interesting kind of unofficial human experiment that we didn't realize we were part of in the beginning of the pandemic. With everybody working from home, we got the unexpected question from some of our clients, can you guys log how many hours a day our editors are active? And our answer was no. That's not what we do. We're not going to do that. You can talk to your editors. And we learned some folks are great at remote and super productive and self-managing. And this is across engineering, creative, all aspects of production. And some people need to be in an office with their, rest of their team and everybody kind of looking to see what's going on. So I've been doing all my unofficial remote work psychology studies through the process.
Yeah, that's we experience the same thing. I think everybody needs something different, and that's what you're referring to. One other thing I want to touch upon in the human factor, I had heard some productions, I think maybe I heard this from Fox, that because there's a lot of remote productions going on in the old school world, you would fly people out like on location, and you may have a different crew, right? So let's talk about a little bit about how remote workflows has really enabled the quality of the output product
Yeah.
and the revenue that can get generated through better content creation is being affected by remote workflows.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. It allows every sports network. I mean, Fox is a great example for this. Has an A crew, a B crew, a C crew, depending on what sport it is, and it's not necessarily that anyone's better than anyone else at a specific job, but it's these crews all travel together and all work together, oftentimes for years or decades. So when you don't have to travel the crew, you can have your A crew do 2, and in a really long day, they can do 3 games in a day. Your B crew can do the same thing because now they're sitting either at home or in a facility that's purpose-built for remote production. And by having these same people create more content, you're getting more consistency, and you're also getting more competence through it, where you've got people that are very familiar with the brand, very familiar with the style, very familiar with what the creative output should look like. And because they can create more content in a given day by not having to go to the airport and not having to lose 2 days a week traveling, and they can actually be creating content during those days, it's a win-win. It's better quality content, and it's lower travel costs and better output for the company. So it's better on both the creator and the company side. It's one of the few times it actually works for everybody.
That's awesome. It makes me think about, and this might be a little extreme example, I don't know how many people here are going to be doing a Fox Sports World Cup workflow, but I think that is a very extreme example. You want to talk through, we covered a lot of topics here today, how you see some of the things that we talk about apply as an example through the Fox Sports World Cup workflow and remote editorial, human factors, high performance, infrastructure and collaborative tooling.
That's a lot of stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to oversimplify it for you.
Yes.
Yeah, no, Fox Sports World Cup is definitely an outlier of a use case, because not everybody starts with 2 petabytes of NVMe storage and goes from there. But it has the same components that every other production has. There's a pre-production component, there's an ingest component, there's a content creation component, and then there's a publishing or broadcasting and archiving component. So, I mean, in that particular use case, it's also an extreme challenge because it's moving people and equipment all over the world, tying them back to a couple physical locations in the US that are production centers that people work out of, and then it's a lot of communication between all of those people to keep it up and running, and it's both a technical and a human challenge. But I mean, it goes back to kind of what I was emphasizing before, is all of the pre-planning and pre-production conversations and asking what are we going to accomplish, or what are we trying to accomplish here, and then really just executing when it comes up. But I mean, what we've learned by working on those is really break down the project into segments, find out what the goal is for each segment, and then apply the right solution. And all the solutions can scale up to something that large, or scale all the way down to a locally produced small project. It's all the same pillars, just on a very large scale with a heck of a lot of content getting created at once.
Thank you, Noah. That kind of brings our time to an end here. Does anybody have any questions in the audience about anything they heard?
How has OpenDrives allowed your 2 businesses to, scale forward?
It's really fast, it's really performant, and it works with pretty much any software package that we need to connect to storage. We don't always vet new software before we connect it to OpenDrives. We were operating with a much bigger safety net early in our relationship with OpenDrives, where we ran everything by them and vetted it all. Now we're much more cavalier about connect it, it's probably going to work. If it doesn't, then we'll talk to OpenDrives about it. But we have a near perfect success rate with whatever workflows we want to run through it. It just sits there and we don't have to think about the storage.
Do you have any parting thoughts, Noah?
I don't have any great words of wisdom. Just, thanks for having me.
Later.
Glad to hopefully share some nuggets that were helpful to somebody here. And this was fun. Thanks, Sean.
Great. And if they wanted to know more about Creative Mobile
Yeah.
Solutions and Remote Picture Labs, how can they find you?
Good question. We're easy to find. You can Google us or cmsi.tv or remotepicturelabs.com, or we even threw a very tiny little QR code up here on the wall behind me. You can scan that too. But yeah, and we've got a few members of our team here if anybody wants to hang out and talk.
Awesome. Thank you. And it's been really great from OpenDrives, speaking on OpenDrives' behalf, to work with an amazing partner like CMSI and Remote Picture Labs. We do great things together and hope the relationship continues.